All right. Hey, everybody. The OpenC3 team is here once again to celebrate the release of 6.5. So we've been doing these videos basically when we do a new feature release, a new feature updates. This time it's 6.5. You can go through our YouTube history, our LinkedIn history. You can see the 6.4 in previous videos. We've got a number of a lot of bug fixes and things, but actually a lot of cool features too in this release. So we got the team together. We're kind of going to go through them, talk about what's cool, what's new, also help people understand how they would use this in their own lives. Without further ado, let's just jump in. In fact, one of the most exciting features of this year is something called script engines, and Ryan's going to talk a bit about that.
For sure. So, kind of one of the highlights. There's a few highlights to the 6.5 release, but one of them is something we're calling script engines, and it's actually the first new plugin type we've had for Cosmos since 5.0 was released. So this is the first new thing you can do in plugins. You've always been able to do interfaces and routers and targets and widgets and tools. And something else I'm blanking on, but the new one, microservices, yes, custom microservices. But the new one that you can do now is something we're calling script engines. And what this does is it enables you to modify our script runner tool to be able to process other scripting languages. So Cosmos already supports both Python and Ruby from a scripting perspective. So you can do a new script, you can start typing in some Python or Ruby, and now you can run Python or Ruby in Script Runner. Well, what script engines allows us to do is handle other arbitrary, typically domain-specific languages within Script Runner. So in the aerospace industry, there's one of the legacy ones that's called STOL. This is something that would allow you to implement a STOL script engine and then have the line by execution, the debugging, all the things you love that are built into Script Runner available to your legacy scripting engine, all within Cosmos, all using Cosmos backend type stuff in the background. It's a really cool feature. So with the 6.5 release, there are a couple example script engines included. There's one for both Python and Ruby. The example files that go along with them have silly extensions because they're very trivial examples. But if you go into like the inst target, there's now this file called example.puts. This is the Ruby flavor of the script engine. And so this is just a plain text file. And these example script engines, they run each line by line, but all that running a line means is printing the line out to the script log. But the framework gives you that design pattern and that class to edit a script engine class to where you can edit the run line method and then you can have it eat up each line in the script and then react to it based on the actual syntax of your custom script. So in this example, I've got this .puts file. It says this is a test of script engines, but you can watch it run this and you can see it still highlight line by line as it's running, executing each line in the script engine. And again, this script engine just prints stuff out here at the bottom that each line. But you can imagine writing your own code that eats up each line and all the kind of gooey, annoying things of like, how do I make a line highlight? And how do I catch exceptions? And how do I set breakpoints? So I can set a breakpoint on line 2 here and start it. And I think it'll work. It did, right? So, it's all that kind of script runner goodness. You get all the GUI interaction stuff for free. All you have to do is write the part about how do I know what keywords on the lines mean, and then how do I execute that line. But all the GUI interactiveness is taken care of from you, and it gives a really cool way to extend Cosmos Script Runner to other potential test or INT type languages.
This is so cool, and so this is actually a fantastic bookend. I spent many years working in INT labs in aerospace, and the number of hours that I personally have spent taking the domain-specific test script from some vendor, some partner, manually translating that to my own proprietary, one-off scripting format. I mean, that was a job that I had for years, and to see something that's like, bring whatever scripting format you have, bring it into one place, get all the commonality, the highlighting, the debugging, the breakpointing, all of that, and this is huge. Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm super excited about this.
It's a cool feature that allows you to kind of bring in those. If you do have some kind of legacy scripting language, you've got a big old pile of scripts. Well, now we can extend Cosmos to support that language, and you can reuse those scripts that you know and love and trust, and then maybe gradually migrate to something more modern like Python. So
Yeah, this is super exciting, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, that the hooks are there. So if I'm in my, for example, my old Stol language, I can actually call out and run a Python script from there. Is that right?
yeah, so the actual script engine is going to be written in either Ruby or Python. You're going to have to choose one of the choices you make when you write it. And then from within that script engine code, you're in Python or Ruby. So the backend part of the script engine executor can run Python, it can run Ruby based on whichever one you're in natively. And so you can build in extensions. The one I just did for a customer, I added a new keyword called eval. And if you use eval, it lets you run a line of Python within their old DSL. So they could even extend their old DSL language to support both the DSL language, the Stol-like language, and run little chunks of Python within it. So pretty cool ways you can kind of extend those old languages too. There's no one that says you have to match it exactly. You can make it even better.
That's so cool. Yeah, we're getting a lot of customer interest on this one, and I'm super excited to see what folks are going to build, kind of melding their legacy systems and these new ones. So awesome. All right, the next big one, and this is another kind of win on the new feature front, is the system health tool, and I'm going to tap on Clay's shoulder to kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the System Health Tool is a new plugin as part of the 6.5.0 release for enterprise customers. And this will allow you to visualize and provide alerting on overall system metrics. So right here we see CPU, memory, and disk utilization. Right off the bat, when you open this page, you get very quickly the CPU, memory, and disk usage. So you can, at a glance, get a sense of like what your system health looks like. And this page is refreshing every 5 seconds, so you're kind of seeing live data of like the performance of your system. If you kind of scroll down here, we have the first like table, which is process metrics. Those overview gauges are pretty helpful just to get a quick glance as to what's happening. But if you want to kind of dive in deeper into some of the details, through these tables, you can get much more information. From the process metrics, you can get information of the performance of all your microservices, and those column headers will kind of depend based off of what the microservice is. Some microservices will have different types of metrics, so you can get all that metric data in one table. And you can also apply searching and paging and all that good stuff that comes with tables. The next table here we have is Redis metrics. So if you're looking into the performance of the Redis database, then you can get a chance here to get a general sense of how everything is performing, anything from IOPS to just general performance of all the different commands for Redis. You can get all those details here. And the last table is the disk usage, which you can just get information about the disk utilization of your installation. If we actually go to the very top and hit File and Configuration, here we can specify system health configurations for alerting mechanism. So right here, if we hit any of these thresholds, so for example, if we hit CPU 80% utilization or memory 90% utilization, these will trigger notifications that will bubble up and alert the operators. And yeah, this notification can also be turned on and off, so it's available to use. And if it's helpful, wonderful, and if it's not, it can also be turned off.
So this is super cool. So as we kind of think about a company, they're doing on-orbit operations, they've got a fleet going, they're using Cosmos to do their command and control. Like what job function or which person on that team is kind of looking at this, and when are they looking at it?
Yeah, so I think the way I envision this is that like in a kind of operational environment, this tab might just be open in like a small window somewhere, just so that anyone can kind of take a quick look, see how things are overall performing. This is intended to be used also like in conjunction with maybe like if you have something deployed to Kubernetes, you can use the Kubernetes console to use that for overall system metrics. And this provides metrics specific to how Cosmos is performing. So it kind of just gives you more details, and these details are going to be much more specific to Cosmos. And so you can imagine using like your framework system health to get framework health, and you can also have a separate Cosmos health dashboard.
And Clay, I know that you built this, for one of our customers. Kind of talk about the flow of how these features kind of start out with someone with a need, and then, what we do here at OpenC3 to kind of share that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the great things with working with OpenC3 is that when we deliver new features for customers and when it's appropriate for it to be integrated as part of the enterprise or open source solution, we're able to provide it as something that is available to all users. So this was something that we specifically delivered to a customer, but all enterprise users will also benefit from this new plugin.
Yeah, love that. Awesome. Thank you, Clay. So we got a lot of stuff still to go through. I actually want to turn it over to Jason. I think one of the lesser, talked about features in any software product is the documentation, and Jason's been putting a lot of good work into that on this release.
Right. We added this has actually been an ongoing effort in the docs. So specifically over the last couple of releases, we've added things for the conversions, the processors, limits responses. That's all the stuff underneath like configuration. So those are all new sections there. And then previous releases, we've added in things like the accessors and protocols interfaces. Always trying to make those better. Please, if you find stuff in there where you're like, I'm not really sure how this works, please reach out. We love to get those type of comments. So those were done underneath the configuration. And then separately, we have for our enterprise customers a how to configure Cosmos, specifically Keycloak. So we did some updates there in our Keycloak documentation, additional screenshots, things like that. And then we did documentation updates just as we hear stuff from different users. So the Stash API in particular, someone was like, this doesn't really make sense because you guys are talking about permanent data in the Stash API or temporal data. Like, what is it used for? So we updated that to say, hey, Stash is just a great way to throw in some temporary data while you're running a script that you can pull out later in a different script. You can store whatever you want there. So it's kind of permanent, but it's also like best practice use for temporal data. So we updated some docs there, and if you haven't used Stash, it's a great way to just put something to stash it away and then have another script come along later, pull stuff out. Just a great way to communicate across different scripts, because basically every script runs in its independent process, and that's kind of a way you can communicate across scripts. So yeah, those are some of the doc updates we've done over the past couple of releases.
Very cool. Yeah, and that is 100% like so much of what drives us into the doc updates is people have a question, and that just pings us to be like, oh well, we could make that 5% clearer in the docs. And every time we get a GitHub issue or through our email support system, an improvement there, it raises everybody's boats who's using Cosmos. That's awesome. So in the last one I want to bring up today, and I'm going to throw this over to Ryan Pratt, is a pretty exciting announcements around some of our open source work. So Ryan.
Yeah, for sure. So we several years ago we forked a project called ace-diff, which is a wrapper around the Ace editor, which is what we use for all of our like code editors. So script runner, and then the like main place where ace-diff comes in is when you upgrade a plugin. If you have differing plugin.txt files, it gives you like a diff GUI of those files. So like if you've used any like nicer diff tools like Delta or some of the like Git tools that give you a GUI for that. So that when we forked it, that lived inside of the Cosmos project. And we made some improvements around some like corner case bugs that we found and just general improvements. So we reached out to the prior maintainers. The project was kind of languishing, and we wanted to see if we could take that over to keep it going, and they let us take control of the package. So we now are the official maintainers of that project on GitHub. So we've released version 3.1 of that, which is now published to the NPM repository, and that includes all of the like fixes and improvements that we had made prior to our like forked version. And additionally, what that ultimately let us do is pull that package back out of the Cosmos repository, which will kind of lighten up our front end build a little bit as well. But yeah, the main thing we wanted to just show that we're giving back to the open source community. That's something that's definitely really important to us.
100%. being an open source software company, it means something. Being part of that community means something. And I think this is just a fantastic manifestation of that. Awesome. So this is Cosmos 6.5. We do at least monthly releases here at OpenC3. You're going to see more of these videos. You're going to see more amazing features. We've got some really fun stuff cooking over this summer, especially towards the end of the year. Some really customer-led and also innovation-led features coming out that we're going to be super excited to share with y'all. Absolutely get out to our website, openc3.com. Get out to our GitHub. Everything you can see there in our open source. We love seeing issues, commits, pull requests. Come talk to us there. And also, LinkedIn, we're very, very easy to get a hold of. So until next time, thanks for the watch, and we'll see you.